What happens if one of the most beloved women in Hollywood decides she is done laughing off other people's cheap shots? The studio was already tight before the cameras blinked on. Not chaotic, not loud, just tight in that way a room feels when too many people know someone is about to push the line and everyone pretends it is just harmless fun. Julia Roberts sat perfectly still in her chair while producers shuffled cue cards and the hosts leaned into each other with forced smiles that felt sharper than the lights overhead. This was supposed to be a warm segment. A little gossip about old movies, a few stories about her family, something sweet to fill 10 minutes before the next commercial break. But Julia had done this dance enough times to know when the kindness was only surface deep. She could feel it in the way Joy Behar's questions had been rewritten at the last second. She could feel it in the way the laughter backstage did not match the words being said out front. The audience clapped when she stepped on stage. It was the kind of clapping people do when they already know they like you, but they are curious how far you will let yourself be pushed. Julia smiled for them. Not wide, not fake, just enough to say she knew why they were there. Joy Behar leaned forward first, voice sweet but loaded like a stone behind her teeth. Julia, you've been America's sweetheart for decades. But let's be honest, some people think you've had it too easy. Do you think you'd still be so beloved if people knew the real you? A few people in the audience laughed, the forced kind, the uncomfortable kind that dies too soon. Julia held Joy's eyes without blinking once. I think they know the real me better than you think they do, she said, her voice soft but full enough to land in the last row. Whoopi Goldberg tried to pivot, but Joy was not done. She cut in with a grin too wide to hide the blade behind it. Oh, come on, Julia. You know I'm just teasing. But really, isn't it true you've made a whole career out of playing nice girls when you're actually not so nice behind the scenes? The air shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just a crack that ran through the room like the start of a storm. Julia's hands stayed folded on her lap, but her smile slipped just enough for the audience to feel it. She could have laughed it off. She could have given them the performance they were hoping for. But Julia Roberts had already decided. Today, she was done playing nice for people who thought her kindness was theirs to twist. Julia Roberts did not reach for the fake laugh waiting on the tip of her tongue. She let the moment hang there, quiet and clear, so the audience could feel every inch of the insult that Joy Behar had dressed up as a joke. Joy's grin flickered when Julia did not take the bait. Whoopi shifted in her seat, her eyes darting to the producer behind the cameras who was now waving, desperate for a signal that the tension would break the right way. Julia's voice came out steady, the kind of calm that does not shake even when the floor under it does. You know, Joy, there's a difference between being honest and being mean. I've always known which one I was. A few people in the audience let out a soft sound, that low, thoughtful hum that happens when a polite moment starts turning into something sharper. Joy leaned in, her grin stiff now. Oh, Julia, lighten up. It's just TV. People want to see the real side of you. Nobody wants the perfect version all the time. It's boring. Julia's eyes didn't move from Joy's face. No one's perfect, Joy. But some people remember how to be kind even when there's a camera pointed at them. The hosts shifted in their chairs. Whoopi tried to laugh. We're all friends here, Julia. It's all love. Julia shook her head once. Not rude. Not dramatic. Just enough. It's not love when you dress up an insult and call it honesty. It's not honesty when you hide it behind a joke you think I won't call out. The audience was quiet now, not because they were bored, but because they could feel what Joy could not seem to see. Julia Roberts was not going to sit there and smile her way through someone else's cheap performance. Joy forced a laugh that fell flat. You're so sensitive today. Did we catch you on a bad morning? Julia leaned back in her chair just slightly, the edge in her eyes sharper than the lights overhead. No, Joy. I think you caught me on the morning I finally decided I'm done pretending your insults are funny. And the silence that landed on that stage was louder than any punchline Joy Behar had ever thrown. Joy Behar tried to keep the grin fixed on her face, but the corners of her mouth twitched like she had bitten into something bitter. She shuffled the cards in front of her, as if the right question might save her from the one that had just slipped out. Whoopi Goldberg cleared her throat, eyes darting between Joy and Julia, hoping to find an escape hatch big enough to pull the moment back into something they could laugh about later. Julia, you know we love you. Nobody here wants to make you feel attacked. It's just good TV to have a little edge sometimes. Julia's eyes softened, but her voice did not. I don't mind an edge. I mind when you try to cut me with it and pretend it's just teasing. A few people in the audience clapped, but it was hesitant. Not the roar that comes with a cheap zinger, but the quiet sound of people realizing they were seeing something too real to edit out later. Joy forced a giggle. She tapped her pen on the table like she might drum the awkwardness out of the air. Come on, Julia. You've survived worse than me. Don't tell me you're really that upset about one little joke. Julia did not smile. She tilted her head just enough for Joy to see that the performance was over. You know what makes it worse, Joy? It's never just one little joke. It's a pattern. It's the same routine. Push someone until they break, then laugh when they defend themselves. Sunny Hostin tried to soften the edges. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed the worry moving behind them. Julia, you're saying we push too far, but you know how this works. You've done hundreds of interviews. You've joked about your co-stars. Why is this different? Julia turned to Sunny, her tone even. This is different because it's not about a character I played or a movie I made. It's about who you think I am when the cameras are off. You try to twist that so you can feed people just enough doubt to keep them watching. No one in the audience moved. A few heads turned toward the producers, who were frozen behind the glass, waiting for the moment to break, but it did not break. Joy leaned back in her chair, her smile gone now. So what? You think we're out to get you? You think we invited you here just to humiliate you? Julia's voice came out so calm that it landed heavier than any shout could have. I think you invited me here hoping I'd laugh along while you chipped away at my name. And I think you misjudged the part where I've been smiling through that for long enough. The tension thickened. The table between them felt too small for how far apart they had just drifted. And somewhere in that long, cold hush, everyone in the room realized Julia Roberts was not going to let this slide back into scripted laughter. Whoopi shifted in her chair, her fingers pressing flat against the table like she might steady the whole room if she just stayed still enough. She glanced once at the teleprompter, but the lines there were useless now. The segment had slipped from their hands the moment Julia Roberts stopped pretending the insult was just a joke. Joy Behar tried to recover her smile, but the corners stayed pinned down by the weight of her own words. Julia, you've always been the nice one. People love you because you don't hold grudges. So why start now? Julia's laugh came out soft, but carried an edge that turned the air colder than the studio lights could warm. It's not about holding grudges, Joy. It's about not letting you carve up my character so you have something to gossip about tomorrow. Sunny Hostin spoke up, her voice careful as if she could glue the cracks back together. But Julia, don't you think people deserve to see the real you? The human side? You've had this perfect image for so long. Julia turned to her, her expression open but her eyes sharp enough to cut through the polished kindness. I am real. That's the part that makes this so messy for you. You can't twist someone who's not afraid to tell you the truth to your face. The audience shifted. A few phones lifted discreetly, small red lights blinking as people realized they were witnessing something no one in the control room would be able to edit back into safe, daytime chatter. Joy leaned in again, voice low, words sliding out like poison disguised as sugar. You know, maybe people should know the real you, Julia. Maybe they'd like you less if they saw how cold you can be. Julia's eyes stayed locked on Joy's face. She did not blink. She did not flinch. Or maybe they'd respect me more for not letting you sell a version of me that never belonged to you in the first place. No one laughed. No one clapped. It was that thick, brittle silence that feels like glass about to shatter. Julia breathed in, slow and steady, then looked at the audience, not at the hosts, not at the cameras, just at the people who had come to see her smile and were now watching her refuse to be the punchline one more time. And somewhere behind the frozen smiles of the hosts, the control room realized they were seconds away from losing the segment entirely, because Julia Roberts was done giving them what they came to take. Joy Behar's eyes narrowed like she wanted to find one last line sharp enough to cut the moment back down to size. But every question she had rehearsed felt useless now, flattened under the quiet certainty in Julia Roberts' voice. Whoopi cleared her throat, her smile more strained than warm. Julia, this is just a talk show. People come here to relax, to have fun. Nobody wants bad blood over a few words. Can't we just move on? Julia did not move on. She did not soften. Her eyes swept across the table, catching each host in turn. You don't get to call it harmless when it's only harmless for you. I've spent my whole career laughing off cheap shots so other people could feel clever. I'm done carrying that weight for your ratings. The audience sat so still the cameras could pick up the hum of the stage lights. A producer waved behind the glass, frantic, but no one on that stage was listening anymore. Joy's smile cracked around the edges. So what? You're just going to sit here and lecture us about how mean we are? You think that makes you look better? Julia's voice stayed soft, so soft the mic strained to catch every syllable. No, Joy. I don't need to look better. I need to be honest. You don't get to tear people down with a grin and then hide behind a joke when they don't laugh. Sunny's eyes darted to Whoopi, searching for the next line, but Whoopi said nothing. The cards in front of her were useless now. Julia sat forward, her elbows resting lightly on the table. Her hair fell around her face, framing the calm that had cracked the show wide open. This table isn't built for truth. It's built for gossip you can sell to people who don't know better. I'm not giving you that. Not today. Joy scoffed. So what? You're going to storm off like you're too good for us. Julia smiled, but it was nothing like the grin they expected. It was the smile of someone who had decided the script was finished whether they liked it or not. No, Joy. I'm not too good for you. I'm just good enough for myself that I don't have to sit here and let you twist my kindness into your punchline. She reached for her microphone. The soft click as she unpinned it was louder than any insult Joy Behar had tried to throw. The audience did not clap. They just watched. Every person in that studio saw what happened when the nice girl stopped pretending that being polite meant letting herself be picked apart for sport. Julia Roberts stood up. Not with rage. Not with tears. Just with the kind of quiet certainty that says you can carry your dignity out the door and leave the noise behind. And in that moment, everyone knew Joy Behar had lost the only thing she could not buy back, the final word. Julia Roberts did not stop at the edge of the stage to wave. She did not turn back for the polite hug or the forced handshake that would have tidied the moment into something safe enough for a clip package. She walked past the rows of frozen faces, past the blinking red lights of phones recording what the control room would never fully bury, and out through the side door where the lights of the city felt honest by comparison. A young producer jogged after her, headset swinging around his neck, voice hushed like he was trying to soften a blow that had already landed. He said maybe they could clarify what had happened. Maybe they could reframe it before the headlines took it apart. Julia did not break her stride. She looked at him the same way she had looked at Joy. Calm, unflinching, already gone. You don't get to spin the truth, she said. You already sold the lie. By evening, the segment was everywhere. The show tried to clip the edges, trimming her words to make her look too sensitive, too fragile, too easy to provoke. But every cut just made the real footage spread faster. The raw phone angles, the audience murmurs, the look on Julia's face when she refused to shrink under someone else's cheap laugh. Joy Behar sat on that same couch the next morning, the grin back in place, the tone pitched sweet again. She called it a misunderstanding. She said maybe Julia had taken it the wrong way. Whoopi leaned in with a tired smile and said they loved Julia like family. The words fell flat. The audience in the room clapped when the sign told them to, but their eyes were elsewhere, on the clip playing on a loop, on the truth that had slipped out in front of them and refused to be recut. A reporter caught up with Julia leaving a charity event a few days later. She asked if Julia regretted the moment, if she wished she had laughed it off and stayed in her seat. Julia paused just long enough for the cameras to catch the line they would not be able to bury. You don't regret keeping your dignity. You regret the years you spent handing it away for free. She did not do a press tour. She did not post a Notes app apology. She did not feed the gossip machine that had just tried to twist her smile into its next punchline. She just let the moment stand as it was, quiet, sharp, and impossible to spin. And in living rooms and kitchens and crowded break rooms, people replayed that clip. They watched the nice girl stand up without raising her voice. They watched her walk away with her truth intact. And they saw themselves in the space she left behind. The reminder that you do not have to sit there and laugh along just because someone else thinks your kindness is theirs to break. Julia Roberts had not come for a fight. She had not come to make a scene. But when the moment came, she did what too many people are told never to do. She stood up for herself and left the noise behind. And the quiet that followed her out the door spoke louder than Joy Behar ever could.